guys, it's Darren here and welcome back to another video on my FPL channel, FantasyCast FPL, dedicated to Fantasy Premier League. Today we're going to talk about my team selection video for Game Week 2, looking at my squad, looking how well they did from last week. I deliberately didn't talk about it in my podcast. If you haven't seen it yet, please go and check it out. There will probably be a card right there, and links will be down below to watch my podcast. But I'm going to be talking about my team, looking at how well they did last week, and then we're going to try and look at some key pointers before doing some tinkering for my team for this week. So let's go and look at my team from last week. So this is the team, guys, that we are looking at the moment. 92 points for Game Week 1, just under the 1 million rank bar. 1,02,969 is my game week rank. I mean, it's not as good as a start compared to last year where we had Salah, who got like a freaking hat-trick or something like that against Leeds in game week 1. I was placed in the top 300,000 in the world. But it's a start. It's quite fluid at the moment. Ranks at the moment, they're quite fluid. They can change, go up and down very quickly this early on this season. So let's just say that I'm happy with that. So looking at my team in general, yes, there are bits that we can improve on. There's a few one-pointers here and there, such as White, Shaw, and Rafinha and Grealish. But overall, Salah with the 34-pointer as my captain. Bruno Fernandes as my vice-captain, 20 points. Yes, lost 6 points there if I'd have put Bruno Fernandes as my captain, but come on, everyone put Salah as their captain, so there's not much to lose, but there was opportunity to be gained, and we didn't take it, unfortunately. Other good bits are Trent Alexander-Arnold and Tsimikas. Tsimikas played really well, I thought, against Norwich. He was going up the flanks. He even had one chance to score in front goal, which was quite gutting that he didn't score at the end of the day. And Trent, not much better. He was kind of like an invisible man against Norwich, the game that they played. I feel like this week's game will be more interesting when they play in front of Anfield against Burnley. Likewise, Antonio, that was quite good, although the missed penalty, I think he could have gotten a better return than Salah if he didn't miss the penalty against Newcastle. But Danny Ings, quite lucky there, to be honest, to get the goal. It was a last-minute goal from penalty as well. So yes, and obviously points to be lost. Aiden scored the goal, but to be honest, we didn't really expect that. We didn't really expect that Leeds could go and challenge Manchester United. So it was a risk that we didn't really take. It wasn't worth taking. At the end of the day, it didn't pay off this time, taking the risk, because we didn't put him on. But, it's things. It's FPL. We still have 37 weeks to go. But come on, let's look at some of the key pointers that can be considered from now to next week's game week. So recently I've been looking at my Instagram feed, which is FPL_FantasyCast. You can go and follow, link in the description below. But looking at the players' quarantine rules, there could be a lot of players that we have in our FPL teams that could be missing Game Week 4 and Game Week 5 due to quarantine restrictions from the international break or coming to the international break. So that's a lot to be considered about. So notable players that we have such as in there that might not be in my squad, but we might still have them anyway. So players like Martinez, Buendia, Thiago Silva, Richarlison, James Rodriguez. You got Salah as well, who might be undergoing a quarantine. Rafinha as well, who's in my team. Half of the Liverpool players, such as Firmino, Alisson. I don't think we have a lot of those. We also have Cavani as well, who's playing an important role at this to consider. our teams, and also Antonio, who's in my team as well, and then a couple of few other players that we don't really have as FPL managers on our FPL team. So that plays a very, very important role, because that means we have to kind of plan it forward within the next 2 weeks. Who's going to be able to cover, and also the Brighton goalkeeper, Robert Sanchez. But less to mention about him, and I'll talk about that later. But this throws a massive spanner in the works for our FPL teams. Do we play the free hit? Now, this is what people are going to ask. Do you play the free hit? I personally don't think that playing the free hit this early on this season is going to be very, very effective. So, looking back at past history, there was a week where I played the free hit a little bit too early because there was few players that was going to be missing games. It didn't work out at the end of the day, and then my squad was kind of backfired from then on. So, learning from that experience, I don't think playing the free hit exactly is the correct format at trying to, combat this quarantine rules disaster at the moment. That's gonna make us rethink a lot at FPL managers, and also managers such as managers around the world have been getting in players such as Richarlison as well. He's also got a price of 7.6. So then we ask ourselves, what next? I mean, it's to look at your bench, which I have a really deep bench at the moment. It's not a good bench. We have Ayling, and you have Ben White and Brownhill, but Brownhill's not Brownhill don't start the game, but he'll knock in a point. He'll probably come on, or he might start and not do anything. But so it's to combat that as FPL managers. I think that's the difficult bit that we have to try and navigate as FPL managers. Or do you get rid of those players? So I feel like some of the players that we had as that might be subject to quarantine from these restrictions from playing games, such as Salah, I think they're worth keeping, because I always look at transfers for FPL. Every transfer that you make is going to cost you 4 points. Even though it literally doesn't cost you 4 points, if you make a transfer, basically, if you can save a transfer this week, save the transfer. So, you look at those, are you more tempted to remove them, or can you have backups to come in? So, for example, for me, right, I went with the Brighton double-up goalkeeper. Now, I feel like I am, relieved to be getting the goalkeeper. That means Jason Steele can come in. I don't have to waste another player. But then we also have 3 more players that we can talk about: Rafinha, Salah, and Antonio. Can they sit in the bench? Can they afford to sit in the bench? I feel like Antonio is quite easy to replace because I've got 2 strikers that can easily play out front, which is Tony and Ings, for 1 week, I think, or 2 weeks. This might be for 2 weeks when you go there to quarantine, and you have to come back to quarantine. Just food for thought. And also, that makes the omission for Salah and Cavani that from this quarantine rules that they might be subject to quarantine makes players such as Greenwood and Jota much more attractive. That means players will be a lot of managers will be more tempted to buy those players, which is very, very surprising, because what we've seen this week is a lot of players have been transferring. A lot of FPL managers have been transferring out Mason Greenwood for some reason, and I feel like this is the kind of thing that's going to cost you as FPL managers from reaching those the upper echelons of FPL ranks. So that's something to be watching out about. Also, Man City players, what do we do with them? I feel like the safe thing for me is I've already got a Man City player. They're playing against the Norwich. It's a very, very attractive fixture. But knowing Pep and his Pep roulette, we can we can obviously see that there'll be players that will be rotated out of the squad, rotated into the squad, and we kind of really can't predict that. Like, we might have Bernardo Silva that might be playing in the middle, or you might have Fernandinho that's going to be playing in the middle. And I feel like that's unpredictability. It's going to really cost us FPL managers. So I feel like what is safe to do is, if you have Man City players already, you just keep the Man City players. That's your lottery to enter into the Norwich game. If you don't, I feel like selling players such as Son or Salah, that might be quite important. That might be quite crucial into making this team, trying to whip up our teams that we already have at the moment. So, and finally, I want to talk about Arsenal. Ben White. We've kind of really briefly mentioned that already. I think Ben White is a good option to have on the bench. He's cheap enough to be having on the bench. I'm so relieved. Honestly, I'm so relieved. I had Nicolas Pepe on my squad until the last week before the Premier League season really gets underway. I'm so relieved that I got rid of him, because Arsenal, I don't think they are very inspiring. They're not a squad that us as FPL managers are going to try and target. And as we mentioned in the podcast this week, I think targeting Arsenal players is very dangerous at the moment, because they've got Chelsea this week and then they have Man City next week. So, and then you have the international break, and then after that, then people start talking about wildcards and stuff like that. Well, I have to look at my team whether a wildcard is appropriate at that time or not. So, I feel like Arsenal are complete voids at the moment. If you can leave them on the bench, please leave them on the bench. I'm going to have Ben White on my bench for this week, unless the quarantine rules thing is going to come into it. And finally, on the quarantine rules thing, I feel like we shouldn't be taking points hits. I think it's quite manageable for my team, at least. Some of you guys might have it on different scenarios, but for my team, I feel like ripping up my squad or playing a wild card or some sort of chip is going to really hamper my team. So let's go and move on now. Let's tinker my squad a little bit. Let's look at some of the potential transfers that I'm going to try and make for my squad. So guys, I'm on the fix page at the moment, the fantasy football fix from the assistant manager to optimize my squad. This is a very good page, and this is not sponsored, by the way. This is a really good page to be able to look at looking at algorithms that plan points and predicted points for the coming weeks as well. I really like using this app. I've been using it for the last couple of years now, and it's really helped boosting my rank. So here we are. So this is my squad that I'm looking at the moment. So I haven't really thought about players that might get me points for this week, of players that I might be transferring. Yes, I have some sort of idea of how well they might be. They might perform, and that will also try and help me to try and pick out a player that I've been looking at and trying to get him in my team. And for players that I tend to transfer in, I normally look at the next 4 game weeks and their projected points and how well that they might be as FPL options. So looking at teams at the moment, looking at the players at the moment, I feel like Rafinha is a guy that I want to transfer him out, but I also can't transfer him out because I don't know how well he's going to play. Yes, we've seen him play against United, and he really struggled playing against United, but everyone expected that. United is a very good squad at the moment. They can't be beaten, like we've seen last week, and demolished United 5-1. It was quite comprehensive, and therefore, there's that, that stigma that Leeds have got a really bad start to the season. But I feel like FPL managers have been thinking like this way. because there's a reason why we have gotten those FPL players. We might not have gotten them for this particular week, but we might get them for coming week. So we're looking at Everton at the moment. Yes, Everton have got a manager, Rafa Benitez, tends to play really, really defensive football. They're not gonna go and play like the most attractive football. They play really, really defensive football, but they also conceded a goal to Southampton, and I'm looking at that at the moment to see if players like Rafinha might go and get some points. But I also look at the formation, and I go, because he's kind of playing in this role behind Harrison, which means that his chances to try and get a goal return will dramatically decrease. So, looking at that, I feel like Rafinha is a player that we have to leave alone. We need to have a look at how how Leeds United play against Everton, because chances are they might, play better against them. They'll be playing against a team that acts at their level, and he's just a keeper for now. But things can change. I am going to be doing a deadline stream on Saturday morning. That's around. I'll do it around an hour before the deadline, or 30 minutes before the deadline, and I'll probably do it with someone else and discussing questions as well. But if I was to replace Rafinha, who would I go for? And the interesting thing here to talk about, because we also have we have players like Shah from Watford. He looks really, really effective at 6.0. He looks like he's going to be getting a few points. Watford are against Brighton this week, and there's a chance that they can get some points. Yes, they're against Spurs. I believe the next fixture is quite easy against Wolves. So the next three fixtures are quite okay for Watford. So he's a replacement, and he's also cheaper than Rafinha as well. So we also take that. We have to take that into consideration. Can we try and move some funds in our squad to try and make them a little bit better? And Bueno's another player that I'm looking at. He's a 5.5 million midfielder that plays as a forward for Brentford. So I think he's quite interesting. He looked really, really threatening against Arsenal, and I believe Brentford have Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, and Brighton coming up in the next couple of fixtures. So that should play into Bueno's hands. Other transfers that I'm looking at to transfer out at the moment is players such as, I don't really have one in mind. I really do want to save a transfer this week. Be quite interesting, because I want to save transfer this week to see how well they do, because there's not really much options. I want to know more about that quarantine situation, because if we know more about the quarantine situation, we're going to have more of an idea. We're going to have more of an idea of what's the protocols that is going to be coming up, and knowing that, we will probably make a better decision, because we don't want to anticipate decisions at the moment. Like I said, I'm not going to go and tear up my team just to do it. But if I do have that spare transfer, I'm tempted to keep it so that we can use it to benefit, to try and probably boost our squad. Such as, I am anticipating next week onwards for Mbueno to come in, or another player to come in, such as Leon Bailey, for example. I am anticipating that at the moment. For captains this week, I feel like Salah is, like I said on the podcast yesterday, yes, I don't really like, knowing if you guys know me well enough, you guys know that I don't like to captain players in the first week, when we have to take that stigma sometimes out of the time, and just try and hope for the best. Grealish this week, I feel like he's my lottery ticket, like I said just now, on Norwich. If he starts, and I've recently read a stat that says Grealish is 90% ready to start against Norwich. But you know how much stats. We and Mahrez had the most expected returns last season or something like that, one of the highest, and he didn't start half the bloody game, so we don't really know from that on. But apart from that, I think that this squad is quite ready to go and try and score some points from game week 2. Let's see what happens, really. So that is the team selection video for today. If you have enjoyed this video, do give it a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new. I will be doing a deadline stream like I said already during the video. That will be on Saturday, 1 hour to 45 minutes before the deadline is. So remember to tune in to me, and I'll probably do some last minute tinkering with my team like I did in the last deadline stream. But if you have enjoyed it, do give it a like, comment down below what you think of my draft at the moment, any mistakes that I've made at the moment. Follow my Twitter, I'll be tweeting quite a lot within the coming days about FPL and this quarantine rules thing. But apart from that, my name's Darren. This is the FantasyCast YouTube channel. Goodbye.